Hello and welcome to Sunday at Home Worship with, for and from St Catherine's. Well, we all stay in our homes, keeping away from this wretched disease, and we've got some more of that to be done, it's looking, in the coming weeks. And while we've been locked in our homes, I hadn't planned it this way, while we've been locked in our homes, we've been looking at the theme this month of unexpected journeys. Not allowed to go on any journeys nowadays, expected or otherwise, but we've been looking at people who've been on unexpected journeys. Mary and Joseph in the middle of the night heading off to Egypt and then coming back and discovering they can't stay where they planned to stay and have to go somewhere else again. We've looked at Joseph, who was taken captive by his own brothers, sold as a slave and taken to Egypt. Egypt features again. And then the unexpected journey of his very elderly father to come and join him in Egypt many years later. We've looked at Jonah, who, well, went on a planned journey in totally the opposite direction of where God wanted him to go, but had an unexpected journey home in the belly of a whale. And last week we looked at some unexpected journeys which were motivated by love. The journey of Ruth travelling with her mother-in-law Naomi back to her mother-in-law's home city of Bethlehem, and the journey of Jesus down to Bethany, just up the road from Bethlehem, in fact, to visit the family of his recently departed friend Lazarus. So lots of unexpected journeys. Today, what I want to look at is this is a bit downbeat, but I felt that it's important. Sometimes life takes us on an unexpected journey that we really don't want to go on. Sometimes life takes us on an unexpected journey which frightens us. Sometimes life takes us on an unexpected journey that we are not capable of carrying out on our own. Those are the kinds of stories we're going to look at today. It's a bit downbeat, but I've structured the service, so hopefully we'll end on a positive. Join me for the journey, expected or otherwise. To begin with, join me for our opening prayer. And on to our first reading. There is one journey that all of us have to take at some point, and it's a journey that most commonly comes unexpectedly, and it's a journey that we have to go on our own, and it's a journey that we rarely want to go on. I'll give you a moment to ponder that puzzle, a journey we all have to take that often comes unexpectedly, that we rarely want to go on, and that we often have to do on our own. It's a journey that Jesus himself had to take, and the story that I'm going to read to you now picks up as Jesus is preparing himself for that notable journey. Matthew tells us the story. Then Jesus went with the disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, James and John, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I'm deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." And then he came to the disciples and he found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So could you not stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for a second time, and he prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away, and he prayed for a third time, saying the same words. And then he came to the disciples, and he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand. The Son of Man is handed over into the hands of sinners. Get up and let us be going. See, the one who hands me over is at hand." A month ago today, my good friend Jeff, who'd been best man to me when Jackie and I got married, was bundled into the back of an ambulance. He had COVID and he needed to have a bit of oxygen treatment, and the expectation was that he would be home that evening, so he didn't bother to say goodbye to his children. Didn't seem necessary. Turned out that that ambulance ride was going to be his last journey. He went to A&E, to the COVID ward, to the intensive care ward, and now we're planning his funeral. And that's a journey we all have to take. We can pretend we don't, we can not want to talk about it, but the fact is that at some point, somehow, we all have to take that journey. And for many of us, possibly even most of us, like my friend Jeff, it will be unexpected. It may be a long journey, it may be a short journey, but we all have to take it. And I'm so glad that we have this wonderful insight into Jesus preparing himself for that final journey. He didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. His plan was to hand himself over into the hands of the Jewish authorities and then let them do whatever they decided. There were various different options. Being nailed to a Roman cross was certainly one of the likely outcomes. There were other likely outcomes as well. And I'm comforted in a way that Jesus didn't find it easy. Somehow, if Jesus had just breezed off, saying, "See ya, folks, I'm off to get crucified," that would be no help to us. But he really struggled. He really felt it. He really grieved. And so it's okay for us to really struggle. It's okay for us to really feel it. It's okay for us to really grieve. Earlier on in the text chat, I had shared a story about when I went with a friend walking in the Greek hillsides. We did what I often did with this friend. We climbed the nearest big hill, and we left our accommodation, and we went up and up and up and up, and we went to the highest hill in the area and enjoyed a wonderful view, and then decided, rather than just going straight back to the town, we'd take a different route which would lead us to a beach, and from that beach we could get a boat home. That was the plan. And we went down and down and down and down until we came across a huge rock face. I don't know, it seemed huge to us. It was about, 20 plus feet, that sort of thing, higher than you really want to climb down without any ropes or safety equipment. And it was that or go all the way back, which would have taken us well into the night. So we took the risk. We climbed the rock face. We both got down safely. My friend twisted his ankle a bit, and we were really shaken. I can remember we walked on in silence. We weren't far from the beach, and when I got there, I just threw off my outer clothes and walked straight into the sea to recover. But why do I tell you this story? I tell you this story because what Jesus' story shows us is, yes, we've faced the rock face. We've faced death, but it is not the end of the journey. And that is core and key to our Christian faith. Death is not actually the final journey. It is just the final journey of this life. And it leads us to something which is more wonderful and better, because it leads us into the arms of God. So, frightening though it is, with Jesus, we can take that final journey, because we know that it leads us into God's arms. And on now to our second reading. We, a couple of weeks ago, had the story of Jonah, which was a watery, stormy story that included some unlikely events. Well, this is another watery, stormy story, which is certainly beyond our normal stretch, our normal reach in life. But the fact is that sometimes we find ourselves on a journey which is simply beyond our own capability. What happens then? Well, this is what happened to Peter anyway. Let's see what help it is to us as we discuss it afterwards. It's from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, starting at verse 22. And we're picking up the story just after the feeding of the 5,000. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. After he dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountainside by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But by this time, the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning, he came walking towards them on the lake. But when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it's me. Don't be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and he started walking on the water, and he came towards Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me!" And Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." There's going to be times along life's way when an unexpected journey is demanded on us, which we believe we can't fulfill, which we think is beyond us, beyond our means, beyond our abilities. That happens. And Peter certainly found himself in that position. But bless him, he was up for it. He was up for it. And his attitude was, if Jesus can do it, I can jolly well do it. And it worked out quite well for a while until he overthought the situation and then got that sinking feeling. But hey, I'm glad he tried. I'm glad he tried, because we can learn from Peter's enthusiasm, but we can also learn from his failure. My mind went back to me and my friend Nick at that rock face. I've raided the family, my photo albums again, and this photo was taken that day. We took this photo as we set off, hopeful and smiling, through the Simi town, a Greek island, heading up towards the highest mountain on the island. It turned hard later on. And when we came to that rock face, I was the more nimble and the more agile, and I climbed down first. But then my friend Nick had to come down afterwards, and I was having to say to him, "Look, you can do this. I can do it. You can do it." And I stood there at the bottom of the rock face, helping him down, one foothold, one handhold against the other. And that's what Peter had. Peter had Jesus there saying in front of him, "You can do this. You can do this, Peter." Sometimes we need a friend who can help us, who can reassure us, who can get us through what seems to us to be unachievable and help us to achieve it. Jesus is that kind of friend for us. He never asks anything of us that we can't fulfill. He doesn't ask us to do anything we can't do. He does ask us to do things we don't think we can do. But he doesn't ask us to do anything that we can't do. If Peter couldn't have walked on that water, Jesus would have said, "No, Peter, just stay where you are. Stay, please stay where you are. You're not the Son of God, I am." But that wasn't the story. That wasn't the story. Jesus was a human being who trusted God. And we are human beings who are learning to trust God. So when life asks of us things that we believe we can't do, looking to Jesus, keeping our eyes on him, aiming to do what we've already seen him doing, is going to be the best strategy. If we start panicking about what everybody else says, like Peter, will sink. And if we try to do something which is just our own fantasy that we never see Jesus doing, then don't even attempt it. But we can follow Jesus' example. We really can. Let's each in our own way set out to do just that. Praying isn't always a serene and ordered activity. Peter, as he was sinking, shouted, "Lord, help me!" He didn't have time to get down on his knees and put his hands together. It was just a cry in the moment, and that's always an honest prayer. Jesus was agitated, threw himself down on the ground, and cried as he prayed. And prayer is sometimes like that. I think however we do it, prayer needs to be honest and authentic communication with God. Jesus wasn't just telling God how he felt, he was listening to God. And he responded to God's response to him. If it is your will, I will do this. We have to learn from him and from Peter. Help me, God. I've prayed that one a few times. Join me now in the prayer that Jesus gave us, which is a little calmer and more ordered. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And that just about brings us to the end of our daily prayer for another month. The end of the unexpected journeys. Next month we will have another theme. Let me know what you think. If there's something that will help you, something that will interest you, something that you would like to explore in our services, then please let me know. I'm in the middle of consulting the Church Council, the PCC, about whether we're going to open in February or whether we're going to stay closed for the duration of this lockdown. At the moment, the strong indication from the Church Council is that we feel it's right and proper that we should remain closed at this stage. That's not quite yet a final decision because I haven't heard back from everybody yet, but that's certainly where it's leaning. So if we've got a month ahead of us of at-home worship on a Sunday afternoon, what would you like to be looking into? Lent is going to begin this coming month. Maybe that has influence, I don't know, but I'd be really interested to know what you would like and what you would find helpful. And now it's time for the weekly toast. And as always, thinking, what shall I toast God in today? That has some relevance to the stories that we've been looking at. And this was a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest, but I've opted for strong black coffee. I've opted for an espresso. I've just gone and pressed myself a fresh espresso because sometimes life is intense. Sometimes the journey that God calls us on is intense and a bit bitter, but we've got to go for it and we've got to trust him. To our wonderful Heavenly Father who trod this difficult life before us and who now treads it with us. To Jesus, to God, to his ever-present Spirit, all one God together, our love and our praise. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he look kindly on you and give you peace today and every day. May God bless you. Amen.